I'm walking in the Malvern Hills just above Great Malvern here in England, where a group of friends, C.S. Lewis, J.R.R. Tolkien, and George Sayer would often spend time together. Now the story is that C.S. Lewis walked these hills and he did it with determination and fervor, whereas Tolkien walked them slowly, more like a hobbit, often stopping to talk and converse with his friends, much to the chagrin of Lewis and his brother. Lewis and Tolkien maintained a close friendship up until C.S. Lewis died in 1963, encouraging one another in their personal lives, their literary works, and even their struggles. They were such good friends that when Lewis died in 1963, Tolkien said, "So far I have felt like an old tree that is losing all its leaves one by one. This feels like an axe blow near the roots." In 2023, the Surgeon General released an advisory to call attention to a public health crisis, a widespread epidemic of loneliness and isolation. Loneliness and isolation affect not just our mental health, but our physical health as well. The absence of deep connection with other human beings can increase the risk of premature death at levels comparable to a daily smoking habit. So how can we be so disconnected when we live in a society that tries to seem so connected? We have Facebook friends, we have Instagram friends, but the only things that we show them on these platforms are things that we've curated for them. It's not real life. And even when we do have face-to-face conversations, our phones are right there, ready to distract us with the next headline or a celebrity update or a text from our close friend. C.S. Lewis once wrote, "We live in a world starved for solitude, silence, and privacy, and therefore starved for true friendship." We were never designed to live life alone. And this is a biblical principle. No person, no matter how gifted, can ever go it alone. Think of it, Moses, David, Naomi, Daniel, they all got by with a little help from their friends. Even Jesus himself had friends. He told his disciples in John 15, "No longer do I call you my servants, but I've called you my friends." It's one of the greatest titles you can ever give another person. It's an honor. Let me give you a few attributes of true friendship. Number one, friends overcome their barriers. In Paul's writings, he often mentioned his friends. For example, in Romans chapter 16, he mentions the names of 29 different people as he closes out that excellent book. And at the end of the book of Colossians, he mentions 6 of his friends. Get this, 3 of them were Jews, 3 of them were Gentiles. Those are 2 groups who would normally never be friends together. I'm convinced, unless it were for Jesus Christ, it would be impossible for most of us to get together and get along. There are enough things to divide us. It's hard to bring us into fellowship, let alone into the same spiritual family. So, friends overcome their barriers. Second, friends overlook our failures. There's a story in the Bible about John Mark. John Mark had a history with Paul the Apostle. John Mark was a deserter in the first part of Paul's ministry as he went out on his missionary journeys. You see, when the going got tough, John Mark ran away. But get this, in 2 Timothy chapter 4, verse 11, Paul writes toward the end of his life, "Get Mark and bring him with you, for he is useful to me for the ministry." That's what friends do. Friends overlook our failures. Paul didn't shun John Mark because of his past failures. Mark became useful to Paul, and it was Mark that went on to be the writer of the second gospel: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. You see, that's the gospel. Friends are forgivers. Friends are forgivers. In Proverbs 19, verse 11, we're told this: "The discretion of a man," and you could insert the word friend there. The discretion of a friend makes him slow to anger, and his glory is to overlook a transgression. Or as Peter put it in 1 Peter chapter 4, love will cover a multitude of sins. You see, real friends are those who, when you make a mistake, when you make a fool out of yourself, they don't make you feel like you've done a permanent job. So friends overcome their barriers, and friends overcome and overlook our failures. And then third, friends overpower with prayer. Paul knew that the Colossian church was struggling because there was a group who infiltrated that young assembly known as the Gnostics, and they were challenging the simplicity of their faith in Christ alone. And so Paul prayed, and he prayed consistently. He said, I am always laboring for you in my prayers. He didn't say, I pray sporadically, just mentioning you in my prayer. He said, I'm laboring for you fervently in my prayers. You know, for many people, prayer is just something they do before they eat a meal or before they go to sleep at night. Or maybe if there's a crazy driver on the road, they shoot up a quick prayer, God help me. Or if they hear bad news from a doctor, then they start praying. Paul prayed passionately. He said, I am laboring fervently for you in my prayers. That's passionate, heartfelt prayer. And then we should note this, Paul prayed personally. He said, I'm praying for you. And I think that's an important point. It wasn't just, Lord, I pray that you bless everyone, everywhere, in every way. That's just too generic. I think it's possible to pray for everyone in general and yet no one in particular. So learn to pray specifically. Get into the weeds, get into the details. God loves to hear those details. And let me end by asking you this. First, do you have any friends who are struggling? Friends you're worried about? You know, it takes the same amount of energy to pray as it does to worry. Why not call them? Take them out for coffee. Encourage them. And ask them how you can pray for them specifically and support them. And then second, are you struggling with loneliness and isolation? I mentioned earlier that C.S. Lewis and J.R.R. Tolkien and George Sayer used to walk these hills together often. Now, just below these hills, there's an inn called the Unicorn. And on that inn is a plaque with a quote from C.S. Lewis. C.S. Lewis referred to his buddies as, get this, hill-walking friends. Hill-walking friends. We all need hill-walking friends, don't we? The kind that you can walk beside and pour out your heart to. The kind that you can not only walk the literal hills with, but the kind of friends that you can walk through hills and valleys of this life with. The kind of friends that are there for you in the good times and the bad times. And then third, just as the Beatles sang, I get by with a little help from my friends, how about you? Why not ask for a little help from your friends? Humble yourself. Ask for help. But I'll add this, be careful whom you ask for help. Make sure that they're the kind who will encourage you in your faith. Now, I close with a reminder of that great old song, What a Friend We Have in Jesus, all our sins and griefs to bear. What a privilege to carry everything to God in prayer. I just want you to know God, Jesus in particular, He's the best friend you could ever have. Call on Him today.